means imaginative thinking, it means big thinking, it means new ideas. I think being based in Silicon Valley, it often comes back to new innovations in technology or big solutions to solving big world problems, but by thinking about them in really new and interesting ways. But it's also, when I think creativity, I also think the arts, and I think music, and I think theatre. There's really so many facets to creativity, but I guess in my life, I'm particularly exposed a lot to creativity as it relates to innovation and technology and new ideas and solving big world problems. I'm certain that creativity has always been really important in the business world, but I think it is becoming more important. I think it will become even more important. Part of that I think is that as machines and technology start to really take over a lot of the jobs that people have done, then I think it really comes down to what are our core and unique human skills. And to me, creativity is one of those. The other is your social skills, your emotional intelligence, I think is critical in the business environment. But as it relates to creativity, I think that's something that is unique to humans. I don't see that ever being, or certainly not in the near future, being outsourced to technology. So for me, if I were thinking about my child and what I'd like them to focus on and what I'd like them to be good at, I think if they had great emotional intelligence and were creative, then you're versatile enough to get any kind of really great and interesting job. I would actually value that much more over just pure intelligence, because I think we will be beaten in intelligence by machines. We already are. It's a while since I've been in the education system, so my understanding of how much focus there is on creativity, I would say, is I will see it once my child actually gets to school, but my sense is no. I do not think that there's enough focus on creativity. I think there's too much focus on sort of traditional skills and passing tests and rote learning and these kind of things. Particularly, I now live in the United States. I think there's far too much emphasis on passing tests rather than people really pursuing what they're passionate about and thinking out of the box and building social skills and thinking creatively. I think those are foundational skills that'll take people so much further than whether they know their chemical table or their multiplication table or those sorts of things. I think play was a major part of our company and a very important part of our success. We had structured ways of engaging in play, so we had things that we had a quarterly hackathon where the whole company, you didn't have to be a software engineer, we'd spend 24 hours, everyone would stay up overnight and you'd do some kind of project, and all kinds of really creative things came out of that. We had our annual Wildfire Olympics, we had a talent show, but also spontaneous ways to play. So we just had all of these fun areas with games, and there was the Wildfire Bar where all sorts of people, had a lot of fun there. And looking back at that, I think that was critical to creating a culture that was really fun and a culture where people collaborated across different departments. And I think that's essential to getting creativity, is getting out of your own little space and the people that think like you and interacting with others is really important. And then the other thing about play in the workforce, at least in the workplace, at Wildfire, it created a fun environment. People enjoyed their jobs, and I think it's hard to be creative and successful if you don't like what you do. So for us, I don't think it was deliberate where we said, let's create a workplace that has lots of play. But as it turned out, we very much did that, and it was very, very important to our success, I think. Giving myself a chance to step back. I think it's really hard when you're in the weeds and you're stressed out and you're in the daily grind to be really creative. So giving yourself that time just to go for a walk, or for me, if I can get out into nature, I think that really helps my creative thinking. For some people it's meditation, but just giving yourself that chance to step back. But the other thing for me is exposing myself to new places, new people, new ideas. I think I'm creative and inspired a lot when I'm traveling, because I'm just exposed, being bombarded with all kinds of new ideas and new ways of doing things and new people. And what I find is it helps me make connections to other things that I've done. It reminds me of other things in my life and brings them forward, and you start making connections between different things versus when you're in your same old environment. I think, for me at least, I'm less likely to be creative. The internet has been so amazing in terms of enabling us wherever you live to get exposed to all kinds of new ideas, and that ought to really encourage creativity. But on the flip side, I think people can't tear themselves away from particularly their phones, and creativity has got to be a process of being exposed to new things and inspired by them, but also taking the time to synthesize and think about those and riff on those and meditate on those. And if you're constantly on your phone gathering new information, I don't think you're ever going to take it any further. You're just going to flood yourself with information, but you won't take it to those next creative steps. So I think it is a real problem for us, this attachment to technology. It's a huge benefit, but we've got to find ways to detach as well. I think the New Zealand upbringing and the closeness to nature and the attachment to nature probably helps us to be a more creative nation. The other thing I'd say about New Zealand and New Zealanders is we're risk takers. And I think taking a risk, creativity is often taking a risk because it's saying something that people might find surprising or that's thinking out of the box. So I think risk taking and creative thinking go together, and I do believe New Zealanders are real risk takers.